Wednesday edition of Birds 365. Kind of a full week that we get a little break here right in the middle. 2 days of Eagles-Patriots practice leading into an exhibition game tomorrow between those two squads. Trying to take it all in and see where the teams are sitting. John McMullen, Jody McDonald, and Jeff Kerr, good enough to come on. He's been hosting the last couple of days. We don't want him feeling left out, so we figured we needed to include him in today's proceedings. How are you this morning, Jeffrey?
I can't complain. I'm ready for the Eagles' second preseason game. I'm ready for all week 2 preseason. And after watching Hard Knocks last night, I really want some football.
Well, you're about the only one that wants. By the way, Jody, the NFL hates the term preseason. Exhibition, excuse me. They want you to call it preseason football. In reality, Jody is correct. It's exhibition football. And Nick Sirianni brought up this week, kind of intimated, and these joint practices are a little bit more important than the actual game. Did people expect to see a lot of the Eagles starters? Because I think they're going to be disappointed if they do.
Yeah, honestly, John, I think people think Jalen Hurts is going to play a half. I don't actually know if he will. And I think Bruce Arians is a perfect example of this. The Bucs had joint practices with the Titans this week. Arians said Monday, he basically was the ultimate buzzkill. Tom Brady's not playing this week. The Stars are not playing. We are getting their reps in as soon as we can. So, overall, I don't think the Stars are going to play as much as a fan would hope they play. I hope they personally play a quarter, but I don't even know if they're going to do that.
Jeff, I want to get your take, and certainly yours, John, because you were actually there. Jeff and I were on the air here yesterday when Nick Sirianni was making himself available to you guys down at the NovaCare complex. He was asked about how they're going to use the checkdown system this year. And he went on a fairly effusive explanation of it and how he wants to see it used and the philosophy behind checking from one play to another and the relationship between he and Jalen Hurts. Oh, by the way, he keeps talking about Jalen Hurts like he's a starting quarterback, although he still hasn't named him the starting quarterback.
We don't even ask him anymore because it's so silly. We don't even bother.
Right, but yesterday was a perfect example. He's talking about the quarterback himself calling plays, and Steichen is the guy who relays the message. He says Jalen Hurts. He doesn't say Jalen or Joe or Nick, whoever's in the No, he just said Jalen and stops it there. So read into it what you need. After that long speech, I didn't understand or know. I was just looking for something as to how the Eagles are actually going to handle it. He talked around it for like 45 seconds to a minute and never really said anything. How are the Eagles going to implement with Jalen Hurts? Yeah, sorry, Joe. Sorry, Nick. I don't care how much you're going to fit into the checkdown system. How are they going to handle it with Jalen Hurts this year?
Well, first off, it is going to be Jalen Hurts. I don't even think Joe Flacco is even taking a rep with the first team. So we can end that charade once and for all. But overall, I think this is where the 12 personnel comes in a little more. Maybe the Eagles run a little bit more 12, and then they have 2 options there, like a Zach Ertz, a Dallas Goedert. But also when you use that 21 speed, or when you put in like a Miles Sanders or a Boston Scott, specifically those guys, because they're good at pass catching. Well, we hope Miles Sanders is. We're not sure. If we get 2019 Miles Sanders, I should say. But overall, I think they would be excellent check down guys as well, because if you're looking for the deep pass and you can have one of them kind of run like a short little screen or maybe a wheel route or something like that, maybe you can check down to them and you can find ways to get yards after the catch. But that's how I'm looking at it. I think you could run a little bit more 12 personnel than maybe Nick would like to run, although based on that first preseason game, he might run a little more. But also, Boston Scott and Miles Sanders, I think those two would be nice options as well.
Johnny, what do you take out of Sirianni's answer about?
Well, I think what you're asking, Jody, is not about the checkdowns, but about the quarterback checking from one.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking.
Yeah. Basically, Nick went on a dissertation about it. It's different. So a lot of times the modern NFL, you call a play, it's basically 2 plays in one, depending on what the quarterback sees at the line of scrimmage. You can check. Sometimes it's just as simple as checking away from the pass to the run. You're just doing math. You're counting the box. Sometimes he said it's a 3-way check. It gets more complicated. So it depends on the play. It depends on what's going on. Depends what the coach feels, what he sees, what he thinks the defense is in, what they're doing. So it is more complicated than it's this way every single time. The more experienced quarterback you have, Peyton Manning would run things at the line of scrimmage, and Jalen Hurts as a young quarterback, you would think it would be scaled back a little bit. And I think it's going to be more like a modern sort of NFL offense. And you have two options and you check from run to pass. You'll hear all the time, kill, kill, kill from quarterbacks in the NFL. They're checking away. I don't think it's going to be complicated early, but maybe it gets more complicated as things go on.
And the reason I bring it up is because we heard so much, and either one of you guys jump in and tell me if I'm overstating it, that last year Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson were just not on the same page. That Carson Wentz did more checking out of the play that was called last year than he had ever done before or had ever been done under Peterson. Now, I get it. Peter's no longer here. Carson Wentz is no longer here. But a whole bunch of the Eagle players that were here last year are still here. Is it just because Jalen Hurts is as wet behind the ears as he is as an NFL quarterback? Do you think they're going to check less than they did last year? Do you think Nick Sirianni will be a little tougher and say, no, I don't want you checking out the play that's called to send in has the options of just read and react and get it to the open guy, but don't be checking to another play. Do you think we're going to see less this year than we did last year?
I don't think it'll be as complicated. I thought, in my personal opinion, Doug overcomplicated at times, and maybe that's because he had a veteran quarterback in there like Carson Wentz, a guy going into his fifth year in the system. But even in like 2018, 2019, after Frank Reich left, I felt it was a little more, okay, this – I don't want to say it was too advanced for Carson Wentz, but maybe there were too many channels to go through. Like, I think it'll be a little simpler process for Jalen Hurts. I think that's what Nick Sirianni wants to do. I kind of want to hear John's take on this one.
Yeah, I mean, well, a couple things. If you go back to Carson and Doug, that was a weird report. It was a report, I think, that Carson was checking out of plays on purpose because he didn't like what Doug – Carson didn't do that. I don't know where that came from. As far as Jeff's assessment of maybe too much was put on Carson Wentz's plate at times, it was interesting. The Eagles would go through sort of that same mode every year where they would scale things back late in the season. Maybe it was because of an injury and they had to go from, obviously, most notably Carson Wentz to Nick Foles. Maybe it was because they were struggling and they would simplify things from there. So maybe it was a little bit too complicated. I always got a kick out of sort of the bridge between Chip Kelly and Doug Peterson. I always used to joke, people, because of Doug's first press conference, they said, well, this guy's not up to speed. And Chip was kind of witty and always had the quip ready to go. And they said, Chip's the bright guy. And Chip was the guy who had, the menu from the hot dog stand as his play call sheet. It said S8. And, Peterson had the Cheesecake Factory play call sheet. He had the West Coast offense. So it was more complicated. Nick's kind of in between. But I think it's going to be RPO heavy, very RPO heavy early in the season, and it'll grow from there depending on how Jalen Hurts picks things up.
All right. I want to get both of you guys' takes on this one. I'm sure that 90% of the people tuned to us right now on Birds 365 have in some way, shape, or form seen video of the catch that Jalen Reagor made in yesterday's practice. It was Odell Beckham Jr. I think it in a way you make an argument it might have been more impressive. Odell actually made it in a game, and this was just a practice, but actually the physicality of it, having to get his feet down back of the end zone instead of the front of the end zone, I can sit here and argue that it was a more impressive catch. Odell Beckham, when he made that catch, it was on every sports show for a month minimum. They had to show top 10 plays, top 100 plays, last plays in the last 2 weeks, best plays of the month. Odell Beckham Jr. with the one-handed catch. He really hasn't been the same since. that was like the highlight. I'm not talking down Beckham. He's a very talented player, and he might have 100 catches and 12 touchdowns for the Browns this year. But that was a phenomenal play, and it was like the highlight of his career, and it's kind of come back down the other side ever since. Is this the thing we're going to remember Jalen Reagor for most? Do you remember that catch he made in practice against the Patriots? A year from now, 2 years from now, we're going to be looking back. Get that video handy of him making that one-handed catch against the Patriots in practice. Why do I fear this?
Here's the thing, Jody. I think it shows Jalen Reagor has talent. I mean, a lot of these guys have talent. I mean, they're in the NFL, but it just shows you what Jalen Reagor can do if you can give him the opportunity to do so. And one thing I liked about this Jalen Reagor catch is this isn't like this was the first highlight reel catch he's made in training camp. He made one on August 5th. I think he made one a couple days ago too. Like he had one over two defenders. So this isn't new for Jalen Reagor. I don't want to see him make plays like that again. I just want to see him make plays and make a difference in the offense. And I believe he can do that. I remember saying about a week or two ago, it's him or Travis Fulgham that needed to step up among this wide receiver group. Well, I've kind of given up on the whole Fulgham thing. Jalen Reagor's the guy because he is the first-round pick, and he can make Devonta Smith's life easier. He can make Zach Ertz's life easier. Like I don't need to see highlight reel after highlight reel of Jalen Reagor. Now, if he wants to do Deshaun Jackson-type highlight reels where he's catching bombs all day long and making big plays, and I'm all for that. But I kind of agree with you, Jody. Odell's been good, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't been the same player since that catch. And everybody remembers him for the catch and this immense talent. But really, he's been more known for kicking a net and getting injured and Cleveland being better without him in the scheme than his actual talent on the field, which is a shame because I still think the guy has talent, but I don't want Jalen Reagor to be known for that catch either. And it's up to Jalen Reagor to change that narrative.
Boy, well, first of all, I got to say, you guys are being tough on OBJ. If Jalen Reagor becomes anything close to Odell Beckham Jr., Eagles fans should rejoice. I mean, I think, people forget because of the injuries. Jeff's right with the injuries and the kick in the net and, when he went to vacation before the playoffs, all that nonsense. I think his first 3 years, he had over 1,300 yards receiving and over 10 touchdowns.
I think he has like the most catches or the most yards and the most touchdowns after 3 years or something.
Yeah, and double-digit touchdowns. And in his first year in Cleveland, he had over 1,000 yards. He's had like 5 1,000-yard seasons. I mean, I'll take that from Jalen Reagor. So he's been a really good receiver. When healthy, one of the best receivers in football. Look, you're right. I always say first-round picks in this league never fail because they don't have talent. They have talent. It's the other stuff. It might be off the field issues. It might be work ethic. It might be, people say Andre Dillard we were talking about, maybe he's not mentally tough enough. It's always something else. They have the talent. You saw Jalen Reagor's talent with that catch. He's got the talent. Now it's got to translate to the field consistency, route running, catching the ball. We see Nelson Aguilar at practice. He was phenomenal. Nelson Aguilar, microcosm of Philadelphia. Great one day, does nothing the next. No consistency. That's what we need from Jalen Reagor.
This is one where I'm going to disagree with my colleague, Jeff Kerr here. More so than Odell Beckham kicking the net, I will forever remember him proposing to the net, coming out the next week and actually doing a marriage proposal, which is, again, yes, I'm not comparing Reagor and Odell Beckham with accomplishments. I'm comparing and I'll stand by this. Odell Beckham has not been as good because when he did what he did with the one-handed catch, he was arguably the best wide receiver in the National Football League. He was making plays that Hopkins wasn't, that Devontae Adams wasn't. He was the man of all wide receivers in the National Football League. And he's been slowly coming downhill since. He didn't not falling off a cliff downhill, but not as good. That was the only point I was trying to make. Is this going to be the highlight of Jalen Reagor's career as an Eagle? A catch in practice in his second year against the Patriots. I'm sorry I have a little trepidation about it. All right, let's talk about offense. Eagles put up 16 points week number 1 against the Steelers. Believe it or not, I know I said this on my CBS show over the weekend. I don't remember if I said it here Monday. You realize that the Eagles-Steelers 40 points scored was the highest offense production week 1 in the preseason play. No game went over 40. The Eagles were the highest at 40, 24-16. But their 16 points is also the most scored by any team in the division so far. The Giants put up, a 3 spot? Good offense out of that Giant team. Washington football team, 13. And the Cowboys scored 3 out there in Canton and then came back with a 16 spot, same as the Eagles. How bad is the offense going to be in the NFC East this year?
Well, let me start with our favorite team from up by 95, the Giants. I think John Mara is full of himself. We expect to win more games than we did last year. Okay, maybe that might be true, but that's a low bar anyway because you had 6 wins. But Giants Nation acts like they won 10 games last year and the Eagles stole a playoff spot from them because they can't. No, you have a right to say that when you win 9-10 games. You do not have a right to say that when you're a 6-10 football team. And all I hear, especially at work, they went 5-3 down the stretch. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, you played the NFC East. Big deal. They still don't have an offensive line. Their coach runs that team like how I was basically run in high school. It doesn't work in the NFL. It's not going to work. He's full of himself. Daniel Jones, I still don't know if he's any good. I don't even think they know if he's any good. That's why they got the extra draft pick for collateral. So I think their offense is not going to be good. If Saquon Barkley gets hurt, they're going to be terrible again. Kyle Rudolph, he's not the same player he once was. He's still a good tight end. He's going to be a good leader for them. But that's not the answer. Kenny Golladay, I think they overpaid for, even though he's a yards per catch monster when he's healthy, but he hasn't been healthy in 2 years. It's really frustrating to know all the collection of talent they have, and yet I just don't get what that franchise is thinking. I honestly think they're going to be last in the division, not first like they think.
I will say I think Jeff brings up some good points about the Giants offense. The offensive line still stinks. We don't know about Daniel Jones. Obviously, if Saquon Barkley comes back, that's going to help them. The receivers, the skill positions, they're good. That, Eric Ebron's going to drop the football, but they do have Kyle Rudolph. But the Dallas Cowboys, my point here is preseason, and it doesn't matter. And if you have bad quarterback play and you're playing backup quarterbacks and third-string quarterbacks, you're going to have a tough time doing things on the offensive side of the football. The Dallas Cowboys are loaded offensively. They're going to score points. They are going to score points if Dak Prescott is healthy and out there. I don't know if they can stop people. So maybe you could outscore them. Well, you got to be kidding me. With CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup and that offensive line, and Ezekiel Elliott seems in good shape. And we saw the numbers Dak Prescott was putting up before he got hurt last season. They're going to be one of the top 5 offenses in the NFL if they're healthy. So you have to
Lamb point. We all talked about Justin Jefferson's year last year. CeeDee Lamb with Dak Prescott was going to put up those numbers. He was going to put up those numbers. And people seem to forget that's the scariest wide receiver in the division, CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, he's a great player. They have great players all over the place. I mean, Zach Martin's going to the Hall of Fame. That's one of the greatest offensive linemen of this generation. He's back and he's ready to go. Tyron Smith is supposedly healthy. Now, on their offensive line, La'el Collins is back. They have a lot of the same questions as the Eagles. If they're out there, they're good. Are they going to be out there? The Eagles, I got to tell you, people worrying about Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks, they're unbelievable. It's just a matter of, are they going to be out there? Same with the Cowboys. That offense is going to be very, very good. So you're going to have to outscore the Cowboys. The Giants, I agree with you. They have some significant issues, and Washington is sort of in between.
Now, John,
Jeff, let me focus this a little for you, Jeff. You mentioned that you watched Hard Knocks last night. And again, I get it. I just gave you the numbers of the scoring of the teams. And the starters don't play. It's not a
Yeah.
real reflection of what's going to happen weeks 1, 2, 3, 4. But you got to use something to come up with an opinion on what a team's doing. And if they're dressed up and they got their uniform on and they're charging people to come in and watch, then yeah,
That's
I'm
the
going
worst
to give
part, by the way, Jody. They charge people to watch this stuff. That's the worst part.
As a Jet season ticket holder, I know how much I pay for, and it'll be Jets Eagles this year. The one Jet home game in preseason is the Eagles. I will be there, guaranteed. But you mentioned you watch Hard Knocks, Jeff. I watched it too. I had a DVR, and then when the Phillies, whenever they went to a commercial last night in the midst of their stirring 3-2 loss to the Diamondbacks, I flipped over and watched Hard Knocks. So I did actually get it done before I ever started my show last night on WIP. Are you questioning Coach McCarthy? I was a fan of him in Green Bay. When he was out there a couple of years ago, I suggested the Jets should actually make a run for him as their head coach. They decided not to go in that direction. He has not wowed me with his performance here on Hard Knocks. And I would think that I know that's all on the editors and what they choose to show. And it might be completely different. We only know what the people producing it decide we're going to know. He has not been an impressive figure. I've watched a bunch of Hard Knocks and I've come away from it being impressed by the head coach. I've not been impressed by Mike McCarthy, even though I have suggested a couple of teams would be well advised to hire McCarthy, including the Cowboys. I said it was a good hire when they made it. And last year they weren't real good. He's not doing anything that's impressed me this year on Hard Knocks. Has your opinion of Mike McCarthy changed at all, Jeff? Because I'll tell you mine has a little bit.
It's actually strengthened on Mike McCarthy. I never thought he was a good coach before that, and I really don't think he's a good coach now. So I got to agree with you there, Jody. I haven't been impressed with anything he's done or said in Hard Knocks. He can drop as many F-bombs as he wants before a game or during a practice. Guess what? He's still Mike McCarthy. I don't get the things he does or things he runs. It feels like he's kind of taking a backseat a little bit. And maybe this is because you're in Dallas to Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and whatever they're doing down there. You can tell like he kind of wants to rush Dak Prescott back a little bit. I don't know if you got that take, but it feels like he knows he needs Dak Prescott to even have a chance to win a football game. And I kept trying to tell people this last year. Dallas could have been 1-3 or 0-4 just as easily as they were 500 with Dak Prescott last year. That's how bad the defense was. And if Dak Prescott plays anything like good, they are 0-4. Like they got lucky the Falcons were the Falcons, and you know Dan Quinn, who's now their defensive coordinator, couldn't manage a lead. And we all know what happens when Dan Quinn can't manage a lead. Just look at the Super Bowl. But yeah, overall, I just wasn't a fan of Mike McCarthy. His last couple years in Green Bay, they really soured on me. I'm like, okay, how much is this guy really a good coach? Is it Aaron Rodgers more than him? And I just think it's straight in my opinion on him.
I think you're right on the defense. I mean, and that's why Dan Quinn coming in, they don't have to be a top 10 defense. They just got to be middle of the road. They just have to be not historically bad. But since Jeff, I can't remember. The one thing I love about Mike McCarthy was the first episode. What did he call the coach that wasn't here? I can't remember.
I gotta watch it now. I gotta watch it again.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And I can't remember it.
Yeah, I can't remember it either. I remember the scene too. It
was like Johnny leap around. Something isn't here. I loved it. I loved Mike McCarthy doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of with Aaron Rodgers. You don't know. Like people say, "Oh, look at what Matt LaFleur is doing for Aaron Rodgers." No, Aaron Rodgers is doing that for Matt LaFleur. If Matt LaFleur goes to, pick a city, he's a mediocre coach. Yeah, Jacksonville.
Yeah, there you go.
He's winning 4 games. So yeah, part of it is Mike McCarthy had the best quarterback of the generation, but I do think he's a competent coach. I wouldn't put him at the top tier. But I do think people dismiss him a little bit too much because he had Aaron Rodgers. What do you want him to do? Okay, don't give me Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he got lucky. All right. Doesn't make him the worst coach in existence, I would say.
It is funny, though, the narrative of Mike McCarthy. Like, he took a 6 seed to the Super Bowl and won it, and they beat the Eagles. And And then he's a 1 seed the next year, 15-1. I thought they were just going to cruise through, and then they lose a playoff game to the Giants.
It's hard to win, man. It's hard to win. The best Patriot. I always say this: the best Patriots team didn't win.
Yep.
The Giants upset them. If you look at it locally, the Phillies team that won the World Series in baseball was the worst of that 3-year run. That was the worst of that 3-year run, and that was the one that won.
Says to Jody yesterday, I thought the best Eagles team under Andy Reid was the 0-2 team, not the 0-4 team. They didn't even go to Super Bowl.
Yeah, it happens all the time. The stars have to align. There's a little bit of luck involved to win a championship in sports. Now, Johnny, when you win 6, yeah, you're probably pretty good. But still, the best Patriots team did not win the Super Bowl.
J-Mac, you were there yesterday, and you know how much he participated in what he was able to flash, actually running patterns against a defender. It looks like they're going to get Mr. Smith back for an exhibition game. Don't think he's going to play a lot in that last exhibition game, but I mentioned I will be there. First ever game for Devonta Smith on the field, Eagles jersey against the Jets. I will be there. So I got to make sure I'm there for the start of the game because I think he'll play about 3 snaps and then come out, and they can't get there late that day. What do he look like? Should Eagle fans be getting excited? There have been other guys like Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor with his unbelievable one-handed catches. We still all believe Devonta Smith is going to be the number 1 target and the biggest producer of the Eagle wide receivers this year, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, he's the linchpin to it all. I mean, that's the whole point. He's the wide receiver 1, and then you hope Jalen Reagor can fit in as that complementary receiver. Quez Watkins turns into a good number 3 option, and then you start cooking with gas, and that's the plan, and that's how it's all supposed to work out. Look good, looks healthy, so it's clearly, he had the best of the MCL sprains when it comes to grade, the least serious. They were very cautious with him. I kind of wondered why they put him in there. They were like using him as a decoy in team drills. It's like it's practice, dude. Just keep him off to the side. But he does need reps. He said that after practice, and he said any young receiver does. It's not an insult to Devonta Smith. I mean, it's a tough transition. Even coming from Alabama in the SEC, it's a different game. They play the game differently. The corners do things differently. The corners are better. They're deeper in the NFL. Maybe you'll see 1 or 2 in the SEC, but you're not going to see 5 or 6 roll at you that are NFL caliber. So he's got to learn the game, and he's going to have some hiccups, and it's not going to be all great. So he does need reps. Same thing I say with Jalen Hurts. Jeff brought up, I want to see Jalen Hurts play a quarter. I'm with Jeff against on Thursday night against the Patriots. And then I want to see a half against the Jets and maybe even come out in the third quarter. I don't think the Eagles are going to do that, but we'll see. Devonta Smith, he's not going to play on Thursday, I don't think. Against the Jets, he's got to play. He's got to go out there. You can't legislate injuries. And with young players especially, you got to get them those reps, even though they're not, we talk about preseason football. It's not important. It's not important from a win-loss, from a statistic standpoint. It's an important part for learning the offense, getting the offense down, understanding what you're supposed to do, and things like that.
I got to say with Devonta Smith, too, I agree with you, John. He's got to get in the preseason at some point, and I'm not expecting him in Thursday. That would be a nice little surprise treat, even if it's for a couple snaps, but I agree. I think he's got to get in a series or 2 against the Jets. If it's more, great, but I just want to see him on the field, just catch a pass or 2, and just kind of get the feel of the NFL game. Like, I think he's going to be ready week 1 regardless, but just having that assurance, if you will, that he knows what's coming, even if he's facing second or third team DBs. I don't really care at this point. I just want to see him go out there, make a catch or 2. Maybe they try a deep ball with him or something. But overall, I really do think this guy's going to come out against the Falcons, and they're going to throw him like the first target or 2 of the game, and he's just going to make a play. I just feel he's that polished of a player.
JK, we want you to treat this like a Nick Sirianni practice. Don't do too much. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat it much. We'll give you the rest of the day off from here on in. We'll get you up again next week. Thanks for hopping on with us today, bud.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks,
Kerr, CBS Sports, fill-in host for Johnny Mac when JM's got practice responsibilities. Just to walk through the day for the Birds. We'll come back, get some more Eagle info out to you. And in an hour number 2, Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philly is going to jump aboard here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.